6:30. I would like to call this meeting. Sure. I'd like to call this meeting into order, and if we could start with the pledge, please.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. And if we could have roll call, please. Okay, catching up.
All right. Mayor Smith,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Valentine, Trustee Stelter,
Here.
Trustee Schwartz, here, Trustee Check,
Here.
Trustee Hunter, here, Trustee Heck,
Here.
the other one.
Thank you. So first order of business is the approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion for that? Does anybody have any changes?
I'll move to approve the agenda.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Sounds good. And for announcements, I understand Trustee Schwartz has appreciations, but before we go to you, I'll just ask if anybody else has any announcement from the trustee department. Okay.
Okay, we got some just fabulous appreciations. Congratulations to Becca Scalero and all the dancers and volunteers with the Fort Ballet for an amazing performance of the Nutcracker. It was a perfect start to the holiday season. And just as a reference, town administrator's daughter was
in it.
Yeah, it's in it. Another appreciation I got was I appreciate that we live in a place where we can get an inexpensive permit to cut our own Christmas tree on our public lands. Thanks to Public Works for clearing the snow so quickly yesterday. Got some love on that. Another person said the holiday fair was a huge success. My kids love making gingerbread houses, doing the crafts at the Learning Council, and seeing Santa. Plus, the weather was just perfect. Thanks to everyone who made this possible. This next one is mine. I'm a dog lover, as you may know. I appreciate the woman who made the upcycled dog cardigans and sold them at the fair. I bought some for my dogs and they look very stylish. Thanks to the Peonia Lions Club volunteers for putting up the nativity at the end of Grand Avenue. It always makes me so happy to see. And in case you haven't read it yet, there's a really fabulous article in the High Country Shopper that goes into the history of it. And this is the 67th year of the nativity. Town decorations are up. Thanks to MEA and Public Works for making this happen. Congratulations to Kathy Steckel at North Fork EMS for earning statewide recognition as EMS Executive of the Year. Congratulations to Solar Energy International. They just won a coveted $500,000 grant to develop utility scale solar curriculum. And then another person said, I'm thankful for the sidewalk repairs that are happening. It makes me less scared to walk in the wintertime. So thanks to everyone for their appreciations.
Thank you. One other thing I wanted to bring up is for anybody trying to get on Wi-Fi, it has been revised and it's a new Wi-Fi login and password. The Wi-Fi name is guest when you go to log in, and the password is town hall. I believe it's all one word. Oh, P Town Hall. And
It's posted out back there.
okay, and I can't see it, but is it uppercase P?
No, capital P, capital T. And then lowercase. And then capital H, and then lowercase h.
Okay, and is there a space between town and hall? Okay, all right. So anybody who's trying to get on, look at the new login information at the back of the room. And that goes for trustees if anybody's trying to get in. And then there's another announcement. Commissioner Peter McCarthy resigned on December 2nd, 2024. He was very invested in short-term rentals and got that accomplished. The town of Paonia thanks him for his service. Due to his resignation, the Planning Commission has an opening. Please bring your application and letter of interest to Town Hall by 4:30 PM, January 8th, if you are an in-town resident interested in filling the position. This term will be until April 2026. And now is the section for public comment. If anybody in the room or on Zoom would like to speak for a maximum of 3 minutes on any item that is not on the agenda, this is your time to do so. And please raise your hand, and I'll look for hands raised on Zoom as well, and be recognized by myself. Come to the podium and state your name and whether you are an in-town or out-of-town resident. Time limit is 3 minutes, one time per item, and direct all comments to the mayor. Okay, I see a hand. Please come on up.
Sign that. Okay. My name is Lorraine Bissell. I live in town, and I'm here to make a comment tonight about the future of ADUs in town. First of all, I want to say thanks to Stephanie for answering some of my emails over the last couple of weeks. And my comment is about the short-term rentals and the ADUs in town. I understand that the town code does not allow ADUs in any form. I also understand and know there are several ADUs in town, attached and detached. I know and understand some were not approved by the current administration, and some were approved by previous administrations, some were not, and some were done so long ago. I don't know if the town was ever oversaw them or approved them. Either way, there are many ADUs in town. I know there has been discussion of ADUs in the comprehensive plan that our planning board is working on with a new comprehensive plan. I'm asking you and I'm encouraging you to put the discussion of regulation of ADUs on your agenda as soon as possible. After you regulate them and put them into the town code, I hope you will then amend your regulations for short-term rentals to include attached or detached ADUs to your short-term rentals regulations, especially those where the primary residence is occupied by the owner. In your short-term regulations, you state the initial total combined short-term rentals in town will be capped at 30. You also state in your regulations that you support tourism and visitors to town through various accommodations. I want to remind you that you want to be able to offer your town tourists and visitors various types of places to stay. A small ADU gives the visitor another option of a type of place to stay. You also want to support your local residents with the economic support that short-term rentals can provide. You want to support your town residents, and you want to encourage tourism and visitors to stay in town rather than out of town for economic reasons and for the decrease of traffic that it will create, and encourages the walking and biking in town when tourists stay in town rather than out of town. I know you can amend the short-term regulations to include ADUs and to increase the cap at that time to 40. As Kathy Schwartz said, it's easier to raise the cap rather than to lower it. And also Stefan has said that the cap of 40 stays in line with the 5% of housing median short-term rentals. Next year,
You've got time.
Okay. Next year, I urge you not to increase the cap, even if you have a long waiting list of people wanting a license. Do not increase the cap until you regulate the ADUs and determine if they can be short-term rentals. I know you all know that by allowing ADUs to be short-term rentals, you are supporting town residents who cannot afford a second home to rent out, or for those of us who, for various reasons, cannot rent a room in our house or our existing home. I also want to remind you that the best way to improve the limited and affordable amount of long-term rentals in town is to support what Shea Coburn of Urban Rural Continuums said, and Colorado research shows that the long-term rental issue is best addressed by supporting contractors to build low-income housing and accept and provide places for government subsidized housing. So I know it's a big step and a lot of work, but I appreciate you looking at that next year.
Thank you very much. Anyone else in the room? Yes. Come on up, Suzanne.
I want to give you all. How many trustees do we have?
Six.
First of all, I think that if you talk to Pete McCarthy, he doesn't feel that he got the short
short-term rental thing done. He was very unhappy with your process. So I'm putting in front of you, this ordinance that's in our code. This is for Clay Buckner, our attorney. I don't know, hopefully you can freeze that and look at it, Clay. I don't know if it showed up on the owl. But it's, section 16, 14, 30 of our code. It applies to, chapter 16, which is zoning, which is not strictly zoning, it's land use. You made some major changes to it with the short-term ordinance. You changed the uses charts in chapter 16. You eliminated the ability to rent rooms. You took out the renting of rooms ordinance. You amended that in chapter 16. And you also put some short-term rental language in there. But according to our code, it says, Board of Trustees, public hearing, prior to the final adoption of any amendment to this chapter, and that's chapter 16 in its entirety, the Board of Trustees shall hold a public hearing thereon. Notice shall be given as provided in section 16, 16, 10 of this chapter. This is our code, this is our laws, and this is what you ignored last meeting when you went and revised chapter 16 without following our ordinances. You're creating laws for the people of this town, but you're refusing to recognize and follow the laws that are here for you. Shame on you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the audience who would like to speak on a topic not on the agenda? Okay.
There's someone on Zoom.
And I can't tell who it is. Whoever has their hand up, please go ahead. Oh, I see. Go right ahead.
Okay, thank you so much. I also have a couple of comments on the short-term rental ordinance that was passed last week. My first comment question is, I wasn't clear whether you intended to allow any new licenses in the future, because how that ordinance went through and how it was written with the deadlines that everything had to be in by, I think it was April 1st. The wording of that makes it impossible for folks in the future to go after to seek a license. So if people want to rent out a part of their house or rent their home out on the weekends, they would be unable to do that given how it was worded last week. And I'm concerned about that that's really going to kind of hamper in the long term folks' ability to help make that extra income. The second point that I wanted to make, Mr. Wynn did a bunch of research on other places in Summit County and other communities in Colorado that have passed short-term rental ordinances and have licenses. And one thing that I noticed, he found that several of these places currently had issued more licenses than their goal number. I forget what they were, but say their goal number was like 400 and maybe they had 475. And they recognized that there would be some natural attrition over time as properties handed over. People don't want to deal with the hassle of short-term rentals, that it would sort of organically get back to their goal number. And I thought that that was a really good approach because it let the community get to their short-term rental goal without really unnecessarily impacting people's livelihoods, their property rights, and their businesses. And so that's something, my first comment about the timing of when license applications have to be submitted could require a change in that language. But the second one is more about enforcement and how we think about that license cap and how to enforce it, whether it's a goal or whether it's a cap. And that could be something more up to interpretation. And then the last question that I have for the trustees or for the mayor is whether there'll be a new special use application for specifically short-term rentals. I know that they will have their own application, was my understanding from last week, but whether there would also be a new special use review application, because some of the things on there don't quite apply. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the room or on Zoom? Okay, seeing none. We'll move on to the consent agenda. So we have one set of meeting minutes from November 25th, Blue Sage liquor license renewal and change of manager and disbursements. Do any of the trustees have any questions or comments? And
I have one more comment. It's also disbursement approval through the end of the fiscal year with finance committee review. So it may not be in this disbursement packet, but we're asking that you give the finance committee approval authority to pay the bills through the end of the year. And then those bills will go on the January agenda.
Would that be good to have as a separate motion?
It's always been done in the consent agenda before.
I just wanted to draw
So
attention.
I've just done it the way that you guys have done it in years past. But
Well, I guess I'm wondering, should the motion actually contain the wording that Administrator Wynn just said, or is just the acceptance of the consent agenda motion enough?
It was in the packet. right?
yeah, it says disbursements through the end of 2024 finance committee.
Oh, sorry, I missed that on the agenda, sorry. Okay, and with that in mind, I'll just say that Trustee Shorts was unable to make the Friday finance committee where we looked over the disbursements, so John Valentine joined me in doing that. Anything else? Yes,
I
Trustee.
just have one question on the disbursement. So it's on page 29 of the packet. It's like the fourth line item down. It said publication and ads for the amount of $1,700. I'm just curious. It seems high compared to what I was.
Yes,
Actually, that is your new ordinance being published for the next 30 days as is required. So that's why it's so much and it's a big ordinance. So.
Trustee Shorts.
Town clerk Vetter, do we have to, just to clarify, do we have to publish all new ordinances that way? I too had that same question and texted Mayor Smith, like, I was like, $1,700.
I did the same thing.
Yeah.
I was, look how much that is.
Yes.
We did add an entirely new article to, is it chapter 2 or 6, chapter 6. So that's the bulk of that. It's,
And the entire content of the ordinance has to be published. So it's probably a page in the ECI almost, isn't it?
it was quite a few columns.
And how many times is it published?
Very hard to be published,
'Say it again?
4 times for the 30 days.
Oh, 4 times. Okay, so that. Thank you for all the clarification and the questions. Anything else from anyone? In that case, would somebody like to make a motion?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that motion passes and we will move on to staff reports.
I put together the budget, and so I know I owe you an end of year report, so I'll do that in the next couple of weeks and just publish it, get it to you and then publish it on the website. But this really came in handy. So one of the things that we've been doing is monthly budget to actuals, and we've been following up on our grant tracking as well. That became instrumental in developing this budget that we're going to talk about in our second public hearing. I was able to more accurately forecast revenues and expenditures, caught a few expenditures that from our workshops that were brought up by various trustees that I had missed in the original draft. One of them was $5,000 for the Wilder Bunch. That is included in this final budget, but I'm getting ahead of myself. We are pretty healthy, and we're going to remain pretty healthy with our ending fund balances and beginning fund balances for 25. So we're going to continue to do these financial transparency processes that we've implemented, and we're going to make it a little bit better within the next few weeks, starting an encumbrance process. So as somebody makes a purchase, rather than waiting for disbursements, which could be a month, it could be anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks, sometimes a little bit longer, that will encumber and go right into our general fund or our general ledger tracking almost immediately. So as soon as they make that purchase, put it in the system, it encumbers those funds, waiting for that invoice and then that check to pay. It's the way it should have been done for decades, but we're doing it now, so it's great. This grant tracking has been updated. And then it's also going to be updated again for January because I'm at my final crunch where I'm seeking reimbursement for a lot of our grants. You'll see about $310,000 come in for grants going into January. So we're going to see some big reimbursements coming in over the next couple of months for this fiscal year. And I'll get into it in our budget, but our fiscal year is 12 months, but we honor anything that's been encumbered or outstanding for 2 months after the end of the fiscal year. So by February 28th, if there's outstanding invoices, we can still book them into fiscal year 24. Does that make sense? And then today I also signed a letter with our auditors to begin our audit immediately after the first of the year. So we're finally on track with audits. I think it's been 8 or 9 years. So let's see. We're right on with a lot of our, this is going to change. So it says that we're running a deficit right now of about $28,000. This doesn't have the sales tax distribution for November that came in yesterday, which was a little over $78,000 total.
Was
So-
that for county or town?
This was all sales tax collected, minus the 2% treasurer's fee from the county. Because it's a pass-through, that's how I get it.
Did you say what page you're on of the agenda?
Oh,
packet, please?
page 39.
Thank you.
So it does look like we have a deficit, but this is as of December 8th or December 4th instead of December 9th.
Can I ask one more question about sales tax? Because it really did stand out to me that we're so significantly under. Where do you think, if you had to look in your crystal ball, where do you think we're going to end at the end of the year?
So in our fiscal year 25 budget, I've done this a little bit better.
Okay,
One of the things that changed is where it was split because part of that sales tax from the county is back to badge. And that's being reported under 103404 other agency contributions. So that's all part of that bigger sales tax picture. And really in the fiscal year 24 budget, it was all rolled into one. But because it has a very specific purpose, it was split out during our budget to actuals. And in our fiscal year 25 budget, it's split out. So it's a little more accurately reported.
got it. So sales tax county, our adopted 2024 260 included that badge.
It did.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Any other questions for Administrator Nguyen? Continue.
Yeah, department expenses are right on where they need to be or under. I don't think we're over in just any department. Streets, obviously, we didn't do as many expenditures. Those are rolling over to 25 because of addition. I'll get into that as well in the budget. But we're right on target with a lot of our expenses for the year. Parks is the same way. Water, we're going to end the year with a net income of, it's going to be over $50,000, actually quite a bit over $50,000 because we haven't received this month's utility bill and then the next month's utility bills.
Trustee Short?
Yeah, so I noticed, and I think I know the answer, but I want to just hear it from you, that in several of the enterprise funds, our operating expenses come in over what we had budgeted for. Is that because of how we're doing the distribution of a lot of, like, for example, with dues and subscriptions? Is that now because we're now distributing it out?
That's correct. And that is, so using these budget actuals help to inform fiscal year 25's budget. So those are going to be split appropriately in the next year's budget. We're finally on track though. We're catching things. Wastewater is going to be way up. That's because the fiscal year 23 grant, I didn't apply or ask for reimbursement until the end of the year. They gave it to us 24, significantly after our budget, our books had closed. So it got booked this year.
Which grant?
That was Doris Avenue.
Oh, Doris Avenue.
Yeah.
Oh.
So
But if it had come in before the end of February.
before we had closed it, it would have gone into fiscal year 23.
Okay.
Yep. Sanitation is going to be up. It's going to be up a little over $85,000 by the end of the year, which is good for a healthy fund balance starting into next year. We're going to get into fund balances in the fiscal year 25 budget. This is was to help, the way that we did the budget this year is to help us get ready for an audit and doing our annual comprehensive financial reporting. So there's a lot of work that was going into that for the budgeting process that really helps prepare us for the audit. And then the airport, we brought in all the revenue we were expecting and spent none of the money we were expecting to spend. So it's a good thing. But it is budgeted in 25 to spend the majority of our surplus for the airport. That is it for the budget actuals.
Chief Lamager?
Okay, so the first thing we'll have is the department's asking the community to practice holiday safety and homeland of the season. We include a checklist and quick reference to refresh our mind on the holiday safety in general, winter travel safety. I put some copies of it up there. A couple of highlights on that safety checklist: keep your Christmas tree hydrated. That's a pretty large contributor to house fires this time of year. Overload electric outlets, candles. And the big one for our area is keeping extra cold weather gear, food, water, warm clothing, flashlight, ice scraper, blankets, medications in your vehicle when you travel. Given our road conditions, lack of services we have, when it gets dark, especially with our remote area, it's good to have those things in case something happens. Next thing I'll touch on is the department's working with North Fork EMS to promote the North Fork EMS Firearm Safety Initiative. North Fork EMS received a BURN State Crisis Intervention Program grant to promote firearm safety in Delta County. The department is assisting in promoting the initiative through flyers and a donation of approximately 400 firearm cable locks. I also included that North Fork EMS flyer. There's some copies of it as well. What they're doing is they're handing out some free firearm safety equipment, some resource materials on crisis intervention, some packets on how to store firearms, particularly if you have children of residents. That's a tremendous program they have going there. If you have questions, you can reach out. We'd also like to thank Administrator Wynn for his hospitality and hosting PD officers for dinner on Thanksgiving. Our officers work on holidays, and so with a lot of restaurants closed, it's nice to have someone that can go do something that's tremendously helpful. So thank you for that.
They were very cold, by the way. There's no furnace in it.
And the last thing is, with temperatures dropping in the teens and single digits, we're asking pet owners, please bring your pets inside at night and provide them with adequate shelter outdoors. We're getting phone calls about dogs that are barking, and when we're riding, it's a lot of times it's nothing nefarious. It's perhaps you don't forgot they're outside, but it's very cold. Just remind homeowners to bring those animals inside if they can.
Thank you. Any questions for Chief Lamager? Okay. Seeing none. Thank you, and we will move on to public hearing for consideration of approval of final plat of the minor subdivision on the property at 841 Highway 133, owned by West Elk Land and Hops LLC. So this will be conducted as a public hearing, and I am now going to open the public hearing on the application submitted by West Elk Land and Hops LLC, located at 841 Highway 133. And the requested action is to approve the final plat of the minor subdivision on the same property. So I'll talk about the procedure for the public hearing. First, we will have a presentation by town staff. Next, there will be a 5-minute presentation by the applicant. After these two presentations, we will allow members of the public to speak for up to 5 minutes. All testimony must be presented at the lectern after you give your full name and address, and I swear you in. Please do not repeat points made by others, but it is fine to say that you agree or disagree with a comment previously made. Please direct all your comments to the board and not to the town staff or the applicant. After receiving public comments, we will allow the applicant and town staff an opportunity to respond and answer any questions raised by the public comments. I will then turn the matter over to the board, and the trustees may ask questions of anyone who testified. We generally will not ask questions during the presentations. Finally, I will close the public hearing, and the board will discuss the matter and may take some kind of action. Once the public hearing has closed, no further comment from the applicant or the public will be taken. However, the board may ask for advice from the town attorney. Public hearings are recorded for the public record. So first and foremost, to Clerk Vetter, do we have proper notification?
Yes, Madam Mayor, we do.
Do any trustees have any conflicts of interest or ex parte contact to disclose? Okay, seeing none. I'd like to pass it along to Administrator Nguyen for the staff presentation.
Okay, so there isn't an overarching staff report to go with this because this has been a process that's gone on for many months. There's a preliminary plat that was approved with conditions from the Planning Commission that was then sent through a public hearing that was then sent to the Board of Trustees where additional conditions were placed on the subdivision and through a preliminary plat. And this is the final plat that's coming back, meaning before he could even get on this agenda, he had to go through our checklist to make sure that all of those conditions were met to be able to come back to this for a final hearing. Some of those conditions were that the applicants grant appropriate access easements on the lots, that the applicants obtain a general use well permit from the state, that the applicant provide engineering plans for the domestic water systems, the applicant establish an HOA and provide guidelines for shared usage, maintenance improvements, that the applicant have engineered drainage plans, that all of these conditions be met before the final plat can be signed. These conditions have been met. This is the final plat, I believe, that was put on my desk, and you can actually see where those conditions were put together. Do we have it in digital?
We don't, that's fine.
Okay, so but you can see where there's. I'm going to point out the different conditions for you, the 5 different conditions. Okay, so the first was access easements, and you can see where all of the access easements are granted for all different of the properties. So this is the main access easement for lots 2 and 3. There is an engineered water plan. So you can see some of the points. You can see some of the points here where there's hydrants and things like that were necessary. And then there is the well. I believe in your packet you have the state well permit that he did obtain those things. The police department wasn't really concerned with the entrance because that's outside of our jurisdiction, but the fire department did take a look at it and they built this to their specifications. So this work has been done. It is ready for the final subdivision. I think that was, I miss one of the 5. It is done. So.
And then there residents and everything kind of like see large construction standards.
I was on a struggle bus there for a little bit. And that is it for the staff report.
Any other staff comments? Anything else from you, Corey? Okay, thank you. Applicant, presentation with the applicant. Representative, please come up to the podium and state your name and address for the record and take the oath.
It's David Warren, 40760 German Creek Drive.
You swear to tell the truth in this matter.
I do.
Please make your presentation.
I just kind of made the presentation, basically. We submitted a minor application earlier this year, and I presented a proposal to the town council this past January. And we received preliminary plat approval based on the 5 conditions that Stefan just went over. I'm just going to recite those. And basically, I'm just here this evening in hopes to receive a final plat approval for our subdivision this evening. If you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them. I kind of oversaw the whole project.
At this point, we will withhold questions until public comment. If that's what I said. Anyway, that's what we'll do. We'll allow public comment and then may ask you to come back.
Sounds great.
So if anyone from the public would like to come up to speak, please let me know by a show of hands. Yes, sir, come on up. And I will ask you the same thing if you will tell me your name and address.
My name is Peter Kowalski from Price Road.
And do you swear to tell the truth in this matter?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Go ahead with your comment.
My comment is that I'm all for anything that anyone is trying to do to advance the town, and I think that we live right next to the subdivision and the proposed subdivision. And me and my wife think that we have absolutely no argument with it. We would just like things to go forward, and we would like everyone to prosper and be happy.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Are there any other individuals who'd like to make a public comment? And any on Zoom? I don't see any hands raised. Okay. Does the applicant wish to offer any further comment?
I don't.
Okay, anything further from town staff?
I will have one more thing. If you do approve it and it's signed tonight, I will ask that Chris sign the other box for the surveyor. He got one of them, but he missed one, so that's it. It's a surveyor's certificate.
That will have to be signed afterwards. So. I will now close the public comment portion of the public hearing. So I'm not closing the public hearing, just the public comment portion. So before we turn to trustee questions and deliberation, I want to state that the documents included as part of the record for this public hearing include all application materials submitted by the applicant, all materials included in the packets, all written referral and public comments received regarding the application, and the notice of hearings and the town's ordinances. Does anyone have any objection to the inclusion of these items in the record? Seeing none. Questions from trustees? Anyone have any?
Oh, I'll go first.
Sure, trustee Hack.
Basically, I'm in favor of the thing, but was there ever an environmental study done on that, like a floodplain? There's obviously a floodplain there. And how much is the water capacity on the well? That's all I'm curious about.
I don't know if Stefan, you have an answer to the floodplain and I think the well capacity.
So that's why they had to do it. One of the conditions was the drainage, interior drainage, and it was to make sure that they weren't going to flood out other properties.
Was that in like the environmental study that you have to go through?
I don't think you didn't have, there wasn't a required environmental study.
It was part of the request for the engineering.
It was in engineering, right?
So in fact, it's online.
Was it online?
And yeah.
Oh, it's at page 79. Okay, there it is. There it is. It's on the screen. There you go.
Oh, sure. I think I read that. I just forgot. But that's it.
And then one of the other was the well permit is on page 73.
All I saw of what I read was just the permit to get it drilled. I didn't know it has been drilled.
Yeah, it has 63 gallons per minute.
That's the permit.
That's what the permit says.
60 gallons per.
63 gallons per minute, so it's our whole design is based on.
The water, I know the water table's high there. You don't have
Yes.
to go too deep.
There's more water there than that.
You can go deep.
We only went 80 feet.
Could you come on up to the podium? That way it gets on, everyone can hear on Zoom and for posterity.
So we didn't need to go deeper, we went 80 feet total, and that was the quantity we have, was more than adequate for the 6 homes that are going out for that property.
Okay. And, okay, is that the water tab for the whole development or?
Yes, it is, yep.
Okay.
There's only 3 properties, and it's zoned, I believe,
So there are two.
R2.
There's 2 homes allowed per lot.
So you're talking 6 total homes.
And you have irrigation water for the, right? There's irrigation water.
There's irrigation water with the property as well.
Okay, that just answers my
Oh,
question.
no, question. Are you finished with your questions? Trustee Heck, you're good? Okay, trustee Stelter.
I've got a question on 63 gallons a minute. That's not adequate for firefighting.
what was decided was that would not be serving for fire protection. There's a hydrant at the Stall Road intersection. There's also another hydrant down at Clock Road, and they talked with Chief Kinzer about that. So that would be out.
That can go from there.
And that's part of why we had to redo our whole entrance to the BFT standards, which is 25 feet wide. With a 2% grade coming off of there and having it be paved.
The only reason I ask is because fire insurance rates are set by the lowest common denominator, and not having adequate fire water will, or fire protection water can cause rates to go up in town.
Any further?
That's it.
I did want to draw attention to page 80. This is the covenants, conditions, restrictions for the HOA. So that condition is also that. I have a pond on one of the properties that could be used as for dry hydrant if they need to, right?
There's an irrigation problem, yes. It's on the northeast corner of the property.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing none. I will now close the public hearing and turn the matter over to the board for consideration of the resolution listed on the agenda. And at this point, I am closing the hearing and passing it along for board deliberation.
I have no comments. He's met our requirements, so I'm in support of it.
Okay.
Make a motion if we're ready for that.
Sure. If there is anybody have any input? Okay.
Okay, I'd like to move to approve the final plat of minor subdivision on the property at 841 Highway 133 owned by Westbelt Land and Hops with the additional signature from the surveyor.
We have a second.
Second.
Okay, thank you. And I believe we need a roll call vote, please. All in favor?
Aye. Mayor Pro Tem Valentine.
Aye.
Trustee Stelter.
Aye.
Trustee Schwartz.
Aye.
Trustee Check.
Aye.
Trustee Hunter. Aye. Trustee Peck.
Aye. Okay, thank you. So that closes our first hearing, and we will now open up our second hearing, which is consideration of acceptance of resolution 17-2024, approving the fiscal year 2025 proposed budget and mill levy. Before I get started on this, will somebody tell me what page the budget starts on? I usually write it on my agenda and I didn't know. Thank you. Okay. So I'm going to open up another public hearing. I will now open the public hearing on the acceptance of resolution 17-2024, approving the fiscal year 2025 proposed budget and mill levy. The purpose of the hearing is to provide a public forum for all interested parties who wish to comment on this resolution. Resolution before the board. The procedure for the public hearing will be as follows. First, we will have a presentation by town staff. Next, there will be a 5-minute presentation. Actually, no, there will not be a 5-minute presentation by the applicant. Scratch that. After the staff presentation, we will allow members of the public to speak for up to 5 minutes. All testimony must be presented at the lectern after you give your full name and address, and I swear you in. Please do not repeat points made by others, but it is fine to say that you agree or disagree with a comment previously made. Please direct all of your comments to the board and not to the town staff. After receiving public comments, we will allow the staff an opportunity to respond and answer any questions raised by the public comments. I will then turn the matter over to the board, and the trustees may ask questions of the staff. We generally will not ask questions during the presentations. So I'm just asking, do we want to do that during your budget presentation? With that in mind, I would suggest trustees that have questions, maybe write them down or a page number, because there'll be quite a bit of information being presented. Thank you. Finally, I will close the public hearing and the board will discuss the matter and may take action. Once the public hearing has closed, no further comment from the public will be taken. However, the board may ask for advice from the town attorney. I think I missed that on my previous description. Public hearings are recorded for the public record. And did we have proper notification, Clerk Better?
Yes, Madam Mayor, we did.
Okay. And I don't know that I need to ask for any disclosures on this point. That makes sense to me. Yes. So with that, would the town administrator please present the budget?
Yeah, I'm going to start with the resolution. So this is, out of all of the budget, this is probably the most important document because it's what we use to certify our mill levy to the county and then to the state. So this is, and I'm going to highlight a couple of numbers here that are pretty important. And you want one number to be more than the other number. So I'll go through it. The first is expenditures. So what you are doing with this resolution is you're probably not gonna see this packet. So it's up on the screen. But what you're gonna see is an appropriation, a total appropriation for fiscal year 25 of $12,876,600.
What page? 263?
It's probably not gonna be in.
The resolution is, of course, yeah, I mean, it is, yes, and I think it's on page 263.
Fantastic.
Hang on one second. Can we catch up to
You
you?
sure can.
Because this is just too much to not have in front of me at least. Okay,
Oh, there it is.
263 for everybody following the bouncing ball.
There you go. Okay. So you're going to see a general fund number of $2,073,825. That is supplemented by grants. So in reality, it's closer to 1.7 million, which is in line with previous year's budgets, but we already have grants. If it got included in this budget, then we already have a grant contract underway, right? So we've already got something with the granting agency that has said, you have a grant, you've been awarded a grant, you're going to be able to pull from that grant. The only thing that we don't have those loan documents completed yet is in the water utility fund, and it's for a loan from the drinking water revolving fund. But tomorrow night is the last step in that application with a public hearing. So if you want to learn about what projects are happening next year and the year after, and over the next 6 years, come to that meeting tomorrow night.
They have to come to me. You're speaking to us?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
you guys have to come.
Yes.
But this is really for the public.
Sorry to be
Please, if you want to learn
interrupting.
about our water projects, come tonight. But you'll see, I broke that down this year also, instead of just within the general fund, within the sales tax capital improvement fund, special revenue funds, which are made up of non-major funds, like the sidewalk fund, the marijuana transaction fund, or
Occupational.
that one, marijuana occupational tax fund, which is capital improvements. And that fund, by the way, is only for capital improvements until the end of next year. Then those transaction fees by the ballot initiative can be rolled into the general fund and don't have to go towards just capital expenditures. And then there was one other fund that I'm forgetting. We're going to get into it, the heavy into the budget. Water utility fund of $6,840,200. That is really moving towards what capital projects we could probably do with phase one of our water capital improvement plan. The two guys that just walked in are engineers from RESPEC. So they're going to be here tomorrow night as well, presenting a lot more. Then there's the wastewater utility fund, that's $815,000. All of these are projected to see a surplus at the end of the year. And then our sanitation solid waste fund of $319,800. This brings a total of expenditures. This is the number you want to care about. $12,876,600. The next number that we care about them all, but the ones that are most important are whether or not our revenues exceed our expenditures in fiscal year 25. We're seeing a total revenues in 25 of $16,569,029, which, as you can see, is more than the expected expenditures. We are budgeting to spend quite a bit of our surplus for major projects next year that need to happen. We'll have probably the most transformative project for safety in streets in decades with the Fifth and Grand Realignment Project. I'm going to go into those capital projects in more detail here in a little bit. But these are the two numbers you want to see. You want to see your revenues, that $16.5 million number, outpace our $12.8 million number. They do. Okay. Now I'm gonna go to budget. Page 94 is where it starts.
Thank you.
I'm not gonna pull from the packet. I'm gonna pull from my actual budget because it translates a little, it looks a little bit, it's easier to read. It didn't get combined into a larger PDF. So I do know that I have some Scrivener's errors. I've put a couple of words, duplicated a couple of words, or in a couple of my cover sheets, I have 24 still in. I'm going to change those before we submit to the state. And then we're also going to submit this year to the Government Finance Officers Association for Distinguished Budget Award. There is only one other community that I'm aware of on this side of the Western Slope that has that. It's Fruta. They received it for 24. I'm sure others are going to be putting in for 25, but Cedar Edge, Delta, Hotchkiss, Crawford have not received that. So we'd be the first in Delta County. While preparing this budget, I was going through the check marks. We submitted last year, didn't get it, but they gave really good feedback on what we needed to change, and we changed it this year. My transmittal letter talks about those funds coming in, and what makes up the combined general fund, the capital improvement fund, and those numbers that you saw in that resolution add up to exactly what is in this transmittal letter. I do want to say that there were some themes that came up. Well, I'm getting ahead. There were some changes that happened from the first draft you saw in October to this draft that you see now. $30,000 was reduced in our property tax revenue due to recent state legislation. So what we received this year, about $190,000, we're not going to see next year. It's going to be about $160,000. That's not the right way for revenue to go. Right? It's on the decline for property tax, and that's due to state initiatives. Our millage rate is also pretty low, as it has been for decades. It's 8.322, which in the grand scheme of things, I know Delta doesn't have one, but they also have a Walmart that they pull sales tax from. We don't have that luxury. So I'm putting that in your minds now that revenue trend is going the wrong way. There's a $15,000 increase in estimated building permit fees due to updated budget to actual information. So that's one of those, I'm going to get into detail on how each one of these funds, how we forecast that information. And a lot of this relied on that budget to actual information, especially in the licenses, permits, and fees, because we know those trends. Increases in estimated revenue for special revenues and for short-term rental licenses after the passage of the ordinance. So both revenue in short-term rentals got added into this one for licensing fees, and then the special use review fees was also increased because I think we're going to see quite a few now that we've added R2 and R3 into a requirement for special use review. So we're going to see some revenues increase there. There's a $32,000 estimate for the sale of assets. A few meetings ago, you approved a disposition or a disposal list of surplus assets, and so that's been included into this budget. We've got some pretty good items that don't serve a function for us anymore that we're putting onto a surplus list. There are various departments in the general fund received a decrease in the anticipated personnel expenses. That was after I finished a study on fixed allocations. That's where people's salaries are pulled from, and then updated that information accordingly. In administration alone, I think we reduced that departments by 28 to 30,000, just because it went to other places instead of all pulling from admin. I mean, our staff accountant, who is going to be promoted to deputy treasurer after January 1st, I mean, she does a lot of her work in utilities and not just general funds. So it was more appropriate to have hers come out 25% from each fund. So the overall size of the budget has increased in recent years as the Board of Trustees has made decisions to invest in aging infrastructure. That means you're pulling from your surpluses to fund capital improvement projects. In 25, a lot of it is a carryover from 24. So a lot of the projects that we had planned to do this year, for various reasons, a lot of them state regulatory reasons, like CDOT or CDPHE said, what you've designed is great, but it doesn't meet our standards. You're going to have to keep designing. And so that's what happened in 24 with like Fifth and Grand and our water improvement projects. CDPHE finally approved those projects. I think we've got preliminary approval. We're ready to go for next year. And like I said earlier, that meeting tomorrow is the final step in our loan app, making a good, complete loan application. This is one of them where I said, hey, there's 3 major themes. And then I said, oh, but there's 4 major themes. So I have a Scrivener's error where I have to fix 3 to 4. That came out of this budgeting process or strategic plan. We're going to continue with our fiscal responsibility and transparency of finances. So we as staff are committed to better presenting and monitoring budgetary changes on a monthly basis. And so you see on those monthly budget actuals, what began in 24, we're going to continue and improve in 25. We're going to do a better job at running a tally on grants. We're going to do better at reporting where we're at on grant reimbursements. We're also going to implement new technology through Cassell. So I talked about that a little bit. It's our encumbrance system. And we're adding an accounts receivable module because we do have leases and other state and county funding pass-throughs that if we don't remember to do, we may not receive them. So we're lucky in that we have some staff that like to dig. And as they dig, they find existing contracts and they say, hey, for example, this charging station back here, invoices hadn't been sent for several years and they paid it. It was like $150 or something. It was something very minimal, but it was still something that's an accounts receivable. Another are like our sidewalk leases can go into this accounts receivable fund. Invoices for building permits can go into accounts receivable. So we're going to continue to improve those processes in 25. You are continuing to invest in staff. One of the most expensive things in a budget is personnel. They normally make up 50% or more of your expenses in each department. And it's really expensive for turnover because you have to pay out any PTO that's been accrued, different things like that. So we're trying to not only attract qualified staff, but also retain them. And I go into that. A well-trained and qualified workforce is critical to developing and maintaining a high-quality way of life for our residents. Although the budget requires that every employee pay a portion of health insurance, so that's new this year. And last year in 23, any employee that elected employee only, the town paid 100%. We received a 13% increase in health insurance. Part of that was, and that's on average across the state. That's what different communities were seeing. Part of that is, as the insurance companies put it, after coming out of the COVID pandemic, people are more likely to go to the doctor's offices now. And so people are actually using their insurance again. That was their reasoning for giving us 13% increase. And rather than try to eat that entire cost, we're requiring a portion of that to be paid by the employee. But we're also doing a COLA adjustment of 5.7 for just about every employee. There are several employees that had good performance evaluations or are being promoted to different positions. For example, we have one public works laborer being promoted to a supervisor. And so that obviously needs a little more income. One of the other things that's contemplated in this budget is going from 3 weeks of PTO to accumulating up to 4 weeks of PTO. It's accumulated by paycheck. 4.62 hours is what it's currently projected to be at. We're saying 6.25. The reason for that is to keep us in line with what other communities are doing for PTO, while also not trying to add sick time. So sick time was something that we did a couple of years ago, but it's still something that is desperately needed for some of our employees, especially those guys in public works who are, subject to the elements. So rather than create a whole new type of time off with sick leave that has all sorts of different requirements, we're just saying we're going to increase the amount of PTO that you could earn throughout that year. Let's see. Investment in technology. We're going to have security cameras, finally. Right, I've seen, going back through several years of budget discussions, security cameras have been talked about in the park, critical facilities, at town hall. We're finally budgeting for those in 25. We're going to do them. I think it's going to be pretty helpful with some of the vandalism that we see out at the park, especially with the investment we're doing this winter in the park bathrooms, to try to bring we're getting rid of the shower curtains and putting up toilet partitions, adding ADA, accessible facilities. So having those cameras are going to be pretty critical to maintaining those, that area. And then, of course, significant infrastructure improvements. That makes up the majority of this budget, which is kind of incredible that when we start going into the graphs and things of this budget, you're going to see there's a lot of investment in aging facilities and aging infrastructure, which isn't typical in communities, right? Where 64% of your budget is capital improvement projects. A lot of it is typically you see like 50% personnel, 30% operating, and then the balance being capital improvement. We're doing it a little bit different. Part of that is because of debt funding, but then also highly competitive grants that we've been awarded. So it's a good thing to see. And I'll sign the final one, of course, my signatures here. Town of Peonia organizational chart didn't change. This is one from, I take that back, it did change. I put Nikki on here. So it used to say Public Works Supervisor. It now says Deputy Public Works Director because that's her true title. What I didn't change is Staff Accountant to be Deputy Treasurer. It's an easy fix. This is a new page with all of our, the leadership of the town, Board of Trustees, elected officials. And then I do have a couple of people to add, like Ruben to this page as well. And then also Nikki, our Deputy Public Works Director. Important digital resources. This is something that I thought was pretty important to have. How do you contact us? How do you get in touch with us if you have a question? So we've put all of that contact information in. And I will say I did make that follow us on Facebook graphic. I made that icon. I was pretty proud of it. But so you can click these hyperlinks. They work. They go to our pages. You can actually sign up or log in from there. And this QR code actually signs you up for Text by Gov. Ruben made that QR code, and it's pretty neat. So if you just scan it with your phone and you aren't currently signed up, you can sign up right away and get all of our updates. So for people watching that want to know when short-term rental applications are going to be available, they'll be available after January 5th. And once they're available, the first thing that'll go out is a text from Text by Gov. Mission statement. This was something that we did during our August workshops. We put this mission statement together. It was adopted by a resolution. I think it was Resolution 2024-15. This is what this budget is based on: our mission statement and our value statement. Our value statement is, value statements are on the next page. So again, these came out of that workshop: resiliency, family and community, conservation and recreation, natural resources, and economic development. These are the things that we're trying to make happen with our budget. Strategic plan. This is the first strategic plan that the town has had. It was a significant undertaking based on that workshop that we've had, various discussions, public meetings that we've had through the comprehensive planning process, the housing needs assessment process, and then a March 2023 strategic planning and goal setting session that the Board of Trustees, I know some of you weren't on the board at that time, had with the interim town administrator. Those goals, everything was put together to make the strategic plan. And then we track what we're doing with our departmental scorecards. So not only do we do the monthly budget to actuals, but we also do our monthly departmental scorecards to keep track of what we're working. These are I made this entire graphic. It took me forever. So strategic plan and every icon, I made every icon. Strategic plan categories and goals, organizational excellence and staff development, pristine infrastructure and critical facilities, transparent, secure, and accurate financial administrative systems, communication and records management, and a safe and resilient community. These were the overarching themes that we heard from our workshops. We also heard them during that comprehensive planning process. And this is boiled down. This is what our strategic plan, this is the kind of services that we as the town, as the elected officials and town staff are trying to achieve. Going into pretty good significant detail. Well, what does that mean? Organizational excellence, staff development. We support and empower a team that builds confidence with residents and customers through transparency, integrity, service, innovation, and fiscal responsibility. Our team strives to transmit the town not less, but greater and more beautiful than it was transmitted to us. By the way, that's the Athenian oath. It's a piece of, it's what Athens put together to say, hey, we're going to leave this city better for our generations to come. It's something that a lot of different communities have adopted as their own mission statement. We align our values with continuing to move Paonia in a positive direction as we work together with the community. I can go into the strategies, but each one of those strategies are attached to a goal: strengthen public trust and confidence, be an employer that attracts and retains dedicated staff passionate about Paonia. Pristine infrastructure and critical facilities. We pledge to adequately fund improvements to infrastructure to atone for underfunding in infrastructure and critical facilities in previous years. We strive to provide essential services to residents and the extended Paonia community by investing in, operating, and maintaining quality facilities and infrastructure. So this is made up of some goals: repair and maintain existing infrastructure, facilities, and equipment, liquidate or replace those that can't be repaired, maintain or improve levels of service, ensure future viability of infrastructure and facilities. Our next is transparent, secure, and accurate financial and administrative systems. We are committed to providing transparent, secure, and easy to digest financial information. We will ensure that both our administrative systems and financial systems are secure and mitigate the chances of fraud or malfeasance from occurring. Excuse me. We just upgraded our Wi-Fi network, and that was part of a security update. If you have the secure town hall password, it's pretty robust. It's going to be hard to break, but it's a better facility. It's something better for us to be able to be a little more secure. Goals: strengthen financial transparency and accountability. We really use our ERP system, Casella, for everything. I don't think we use it to do any sort of financial reporting other than what we pull out of it to make it a little more presentable than how it spits it out. But everything is tracked in Casella. Everything. Even though payroll is done by ADP, it is still uploaded into Casella. Ensure that inventory and assets are properly accounted and managed. This is something that's been on the radar for a few years that we are planning to do in 25. Part of it is building permits, others inventory in the water and wastewater departments. We actually have a module that we have never utilized aside from, what do you guys put on commercial businesses?
As far as meters or?
It's the other thing. Backflow. The only thing we've used it for is registering backflow preventers, when really we can use it for all of our inventory and assets. So that's something we're going to start hitting in 25 as well. Safe and resilient community. Paonia is committed to creating a safe, friendly, and connected experience for residents and visitors. We value the mix of industries that make Paonia unique and continue to sustainably grow the business community, skilled workforce, and cooperate regionally. Goal 1, provide and maintain public safety services and awarenesses in the community. We're going to continue to invest in police. Partner with existing non-governmental organizations to create arts and culture opportunities, more community-based community service, and action opportunities that connect the community. Final goal in this one is support the local labor market and work with partners to grow diverse employment opportunities. So this is kind of like our economic development, saying we're going to move with that. We're going to help with other agencies, non-governmental organizations. Communications and records management. Our mission is to enhance municipal operations through efficient records management, transparent communication, ensuring compliance with regulations, and fostering public trust. We are committed to using modern technology to improve accessibility, engagement, and the responsible management of town resources. Goals: preserve the town record and history in an accessible and easily recallable manner. Right now, some of our records, going back with I'm going to say our standby fees for water, were really, really hard to identify. That's because of how records were kept historically. Going all the way back, I think, to some cases the 80s, something like that. Engage, inform, and involve the community. That was it for the strategic plan. We go into history. This is the history of Paonia. Not much has changed from 2024, except for here on who's this page with the mountains at the bottom. I made that graphic too. So I said 17. There you go, 117. So this actually changed between the paragraph that starts on 116 and goes through 117. So this is new. Continuing in fiscal year 25, the town is progressing a 20-year water capital improvement plan funded largely through a loan from the Colorado's Drinking Water Revolving Fund and supplemented through grants. The first phase of the plan focused on replacing and upsizing the main distribution line from the water treatment plant to nearly all water customers, relining the finished water storage tank, and metering and rehabilitating the town's raw water system since it was first constructed. Paonia is making significant investments in its infrastructure over the next 20 years. You'll see that there are some additional notes in here about kind of our economy, right? So we don't have industrial, we don't have any sort of major industrial manufacturing businesses or anything like that. We're predominantly a residential community. We like that. And then what we're saying is what we could do to improve our overall outlook with economic outlook by partnering with regional partnerships, One Delta County, the state, Delta County, things like that. I am really proud to say that, as I told you earlier, I signed the engagement letter for our auditors now instead of next year. So they are ready to come to us first of the year to start our audit. That's great news. We're going to finally be on time with audits after several years of not being. Okay. Scope of services. This is all new. So this introduction section is all something different from fiscal year 24. We provide the following major services to residents and visitors: public safety, parks, trails, and open space, street construction and maintenance, municipal court, town facilities, administration and finance, community development, building, communication, engagement, sports services. We have a municipal airport, water utility, sewer utility, and trash services. I do go into detail about our employees and benefits, and this is where it's also the PTO going from 4.62 to 6.25. In 2024, we had 20 regular full-time positions, but had 22 available, which meant we didn't fill 2. And looking back as to why we didn't fill 2 of those positions, those wages were pretty low, so we're bumping them up in 25. Town also had 2 part-time positions in 2024. 25, the town is expected to fill all of its vacant positions and have a total of 23 full-time positions and 1 part-time position. So that's 23.5 positions. That's what we call our positional cap, right? Let's see. We are so in 25, we're going to transition away to a performance-based pay system, which means that I'm going to have to start doing some pay scales or pay ranges for 25 for people to meet into. 5.7% cost of living adjustment. We did implement a new performance appraisal system that requires individual development plans. I am behind on my department heads, but first of the year we're going to hit it. We're going to do all of our performance plans for them. Here we talk about the PTO. We're going up to 40 hours, which is 6.25 hours accumulated per paycheck. I would propose to add a holiday in 25. You'll have that resolution in January to include Christmas Eve for a total of 14 paid vacation holidays. It's just something to consider.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I know we're holding questions, but I'm feeling a little bit I think, prepping for this, I've read all of it and I feel like you're just reiterating back to us. It's an amazing document. I texted you earlier.
Sure.
But I'm wondering if we could, I want to make sure we have time and don't get completely just information overload when the numbers are really so key to us. So if there's ways that you can skip some sections and just trust that we read these things. I wouldn't have questions.
Yeah.
And I might be the only one feeling this way, but I'm feeling a little bit.
You want to move?
I don't want to speak for everybody, but I agree because I've read it all too.
Yeah.
And I just think the numbers are probably
I anticipated this.
where you need to help us.
So anticipating that that was what was going to happen, I pulled these out. And so you have printed copies off on you should have them in your mailbox as well, of the actual numbers.
Do you all want your printed copies out of the mailbox?
I printed mine, but I'm gonna go get.
Get everybody?
Yeah, totally.
Oh, hang on, come back, come back. We'll get a staff to do that so we can keep going. Okay,
So just anticipating that, I had pulled this out already. Ready to go. So I do want to say in the actual budget document, it talks about how we do our financing and accounting. You know, we do in the general fund, it's a modified accrual basis. And then for our business type activities, those are utilities, it's a full accrual basis, meaning as it comes in, it spends, yes, revenue comes in, and as it spends, we book it. Whereas the modified accrual basis, you budget for revenue that's going to come in, and you know, you book it as you receive it, but you're budgeting for it throughout the whole year. So. Okay, so I think it's page 2 is where general fund revenues start. General fund revenues are broken up into 7 different subcategories. The first one is taxes. So this is typically this ad valorem is what makes up the most majority of the of your general fund budget. So taxes make up the majority of your budget. You can see that in previous years, we received, like this year, we had $195,000. We've received about $190,000 of property taxes, but next year we're expecting $160,000. And then I also put in a few, comparison years, which is necessary. You've got to do that for the state. Licenses, permits, and fees. That's where. Like our special use review is in there. And also, I believe our short-term rental licenses are also in that one as well. That's it. Yep, so they're both in there. The final number, though, that we're looking at that I think is pretty important to look at is the grant revenue. Grant revenue is expected to be, we've already gotten contracts underway for $1,260,592. The majority, the lion's share of that it's a $1,010,000 grant from CDOT to go towards the 5th and Grand realignment project, which is going to be well over $2.5 million. So to cover that missing amount, right? How do you cover that? We're pulling from surplus. And that's explained in the other budget document where we're actually pulling those from different capital improvement surpluses. And that's with that transfer revenue, $2,022,258. That's where that's coming from. Okay. Next surplus deficit, we're budgeting for our revenues and to be nothing, right? So we're saying we're not going to bring in more, we're not going to spend more than what we have. Staffing by department. So I think this is pretty important to note. This is something that we didn't have last year that is in this budget. It shows our staffing levels. As a condition of our water moratorium, some of the things that we have to go to, we actually have to have staffing to be able to provide the services for water delivery, treatment and delivery. And so what you're seeing is, I know it looks like water and wastewater went down, but it's because of those fixed allocations, we're splitting it better. So in 25, it's 1.5 in each one. And then sanitation is one of our other enterprise activities. But we're budgeting for 23.5 people. So that's 23 full-time and then a part-time position in 25. By the way, that right there is actually required by the GFOA to show staffing levels. And if they're increasing or decreasing over time. Okay, this is one of the cover sheets I have to fix. But each department has their own cover sheet. That talks about a mission for, like the administration department, what makes it up, what services do we provide? And then our staffing tables. You can see I'm proposing to add a position in 25, a full-time exempt position. And rather than put this as like half or quarters, I'm putting it as people for each department, and these are based on their home departments. So even though I have a fixed allocation for my salary, my home department is admin. Does that make sense? Okay. Major goals and changes, we're promoting the staff accountant deputy treasurer. The position has become a trusted position, and they are integral to not only our internal controls, but also our budget management. So I need to do that. Right? Focus on 25 on improving service delivery with updating and modernizing permit applications, review processes, and records management. One of the comments you heard tonight was, well, the special use review application doesn't have that on there. Yeah, we know. We're changing it for 25. So by January 5th, or once this short-term rental regulation ordinance goes into effect, there will be new applications for people to use. Capital requests. We're requesting roof repair at Town Hall. It's bad. They need to replace it, especially above the entire finance in my office. It's ready to cave in. Purchase new computers for Town Hall staff. We do have some staff that are still running some pretty old machines. We're trying to go all to this Dell type laptop that it's capable of running all of our applications, and it's also something that's warranted, and our IT people can readily access it and fix it. We're looking to purchase new server equipment for all of our records. It's an additional backup for our ERP system, Cassell. And then we're going to invest in ERP modules to assist in records management and keeping accurate records of purchases. One of these are also a program that the town clerk has asked for. Administration expenses. Typically, you see this pretty good breakdown between green personnel and blue operating expenses. It's usually pretty close to 50-50. And this one, in this case, 43% is personnel, 46% is operating. It's just a visual on how the expenses are broken down. Just nothing changed in this one other than we reduced the amount from our original budget for town administrator contract labor. So my salary that comes out of the general fund, and salaries and wages based on that fixed allocation study. You'll also see building improvements and machinery and equipment being bumped up from that October one to cover servers, repairs. Law enforcement, again, have a mission. Talk about what they do. No staffing changes anticipated for 25. They still have 24 listed, or that same staffing level from 24 carrying over to 25. Their major goals are going to continue to develop and train the town's officers to training, policy implementation through Lexpol. There are 3 capital requests. Looks like vests for officers, optics for firearms, and security cameras installed at Town Hall. Yeah. Laptop platforms. That's in the budget. So they have equipment purchase they need to. Oh shoot, I need to add that one because it is in the budget. It is in the budget. I need to add number 4, new laptops to their capital requests. We're going to get into that in a second. This one
in the budget, or you just
it is. So those numbers are not changing. I just have to add it to the cover sheet. This is typical for public safety, where the lion's share is personnel services. It's not like they need an operating budget to buy pipes and asphalt, right? Their budget is the service they provide as officers. And so that's why you typically see a public safety budget being majority of it being personnel. So that's reflected. You go down to machinery and equipment. That's where the laptops are. I think it was 10,000 for laptops. And so part of that 30,475 is for laptops. Just need to add it to that cover sheet. Building department, this one was fun to do. For whatever reason, for many years, I even carried it along in 24. Our contract building inspector was listed as an employee, right, as personnel for the town, but we had a contract with that inspector through a consulting firm. It should never have been considered personnel, and we had been doing it for many years. So in 25, we're correcting it. We're saying we don't have any. We don't have any dedicated staff in the building department, and the budget actually reflects that. So both inspection services and plan review services or building official services are consulting firms, right? Plan review and building official is Schutz Coda, and then our building inspector is still a contract with the city of Delta where we share their building inspector. She's been great. We haven't had any issues, so it's readily available. And so you'll see that reflected in the graph, and then also here. It's not so robust anymore. It's just the only thing in this department is legal, engineering, and professional services, period. And if you go back to our revenue, that is the anticipated amount for building permits. So it's covered. Okay. Public Works Department, Streets Division. This is anticipated to have a full-time exempt position. That's that supervisor position being made into a supervisor. And its home department is streets. So that department's leadership will look Public Works Director, Deputy Public Works Director, and then Public Works Supervisor. I left in a capital request for a roller for street repairs. It's a carryover request from this year. We didn't purchase a street roller, so it's carried over into fiscal year. This one is going to be insane. 93% of it is capital outlay, and that is all due to Fifth and Grand realignment, or what we call safe pathways for paying. So it makes it look like personnel and operating are really small, but they aren't. If I were to remove that Fifth and Grand, it would be closer to that 50-50 or 43-46. So I mean, you can see it, $3.5 million for their budget. And that's reflected in this document. So you can see it. And we gave, since Fifth Street realignment has a number of grants associated with it and could have more grants if we're approved associated with it, it has its own line item because I'll have to use that to pull down to report to get that reimbursement. Let's see. And then also you'll see under grant projects, 104575, an amount for $325,000. $250,000 of that is a grant that's covered in the grant general fund revenue under grants to go specifically for Safe Streets for All. So that's a Federal Highway Administration grant that is going to prioritize road projects throughout the entire town. Prioritize what needs to be done for, from safety on down. So a lot of work being done in 2025 in streets. I'm glad that we have a public works supervisor position budgeted for it. We couldn't do it ourselves. Public Works, the Parks and Recreation Division, going to keep it at one full-time non-exempt position. That's our parks employee. That's their home department, but this position also throws trash. So a lot of that comes out of a lot of that person's salary and benefits will come out of sanitation as well. And then for the tree board, completing another course of treatment for ash trees with town rights of way and town parks to protect against the emerald ash borer. All of the tree board's requests were contemplated in this budget between Parks and Rec and the street department. It also funds a grant match for the Wild Rush. So that was something that came out of that October workshop that I'd forgotten. It's been put in. That's $5,000. So we'll get into that. Here's the Parks and Recreation budget. Any questions? Okay, now this, so that ends our general fund discussion. Now we're into our business type activities, which are enterprise utilities like water, wastewater, and trash. I know this looks like we've lost an employee, but we really haven't. I've just done their fixed allocation better between water and wastewater. This is going to be probably the most expensive fund that we have because of our phase one of our water capital improvement plan. It relies, and by the way, this relies on rate increases and subsequent increases in revenues to help pay for the debt funding that we're going to need to take out to get these projects done. So not only is it phase one of the water capital improvement plan, but it's also completing the hydrogeological study that was began in this year. You guys in a previous board meeting extended that contract to next year. So that's what is contemplated in this. Capital requests are quite a few. I know it's only 5, but those 5 are very expensive. 2 million gallon Lamborn finished water tank relining project. This is all water capital improvement plan phase 1. Approximately 9,000 linear feet of steel pipe replacement realignment. Number 3 is our raw water metering and diversion box improvements. Number 4 is completing the hydrogeological study, which also now includes brush clearing through that water support. And then number 5, continuing to build an inventory of replacement parts stock for water treatment plant. Some of these connections that Corey and the guys need are like $2,500 a pop or more. And we're looking to keep them, those critical pieces that tend to fail on a shelf, ready to go. So we're not scrambling to go to Glenwood to find, ask them if they've got for us. You can see here, again, capital outlay makes up the lion's share of fiscal year 25. I was conservative in that capital outlay by being less, because just like this year, I don't think we're going to get it all done. We're going to have to budget again in 26 for that full $10 million to keep things moving. I want to be as optimistic as possible that once they get that pipe rolling for the realignment, that it's going to go quick. Experience has been telling me that things here move a little bit slower. And so we're saying, yes, we're going to start it, but we're going to finish it in 26. Okay, utility rate chart. So water utility revenue. Budgeting for a little bit more than what we did in 24. And this is reliant on a resolution that you see tonight, increasing our water rates. So we have to increase water rates across the board in order to be able to afford this debt funding that we're getting into with our drinking water revolving fund. That being said, you'll see water charges in 24 being $895,000 and in 25 budgeting for $905,000. That number for about $742,000 from budget to actual as of the end of October. And so it doesn't have all of that revenue included that we're going to see. So that's why that's there, and that's why it looks lower. It's not like it was something done today. 603602 is the water charges or usage. So we had budgeted for $700,000. That was based on water usage that we thought we were using. And turns out that after we've been doing our water meter audit, that we aren't using an additional 14 or 15 million gallons a month, or I'm sorry, a year. And that's because a couple of those meters that were collecting data were static, meaning that it was a set amount each month that they were just running through it and weren't actually recording what was going through them. That's something that was changed. The reason we didn't find it is we weren't stroking a bill for them, right? So we have a number of agreements in place that, that allow for us to, record the water that's going through but not charge them. So they may have given us water rights in the past and for the life and, and anybody that survives or, their inheritors, receive this benefit from the town. Immemorial. So, but we fixed those. And so this is more inaccurate, of what our water usage is. And that's why that's going down from 700,000 budgeted to 368,000. Which is still going to be about $70,000 to $80,000 more than projected revenue for this year. It had to happen. That's based on rate increases. And it also, you'll see in the water rate utility increases that for 25,000 gallons or more a month, the price goes up significantly. That's something that the state has been asking towns to do as a water conservation policy. To help use less water. So then the big one here is 60-36-25 loan funds, it's millions of dollars. And then our grant funds, 60-36-30 at $1,202,500. Personnel services, pretty close to what we had budgeted. It's $30,000 more. That's that fixed allocation changes based on, where people actually spend time. Operating budget is less, but still pretty accurate based on what we've seen in our budget to actuals, what we've been actually spending. There is a new category in water and wastewater. It's 60-50-14 chemicals. It was something that Corey had asked for to not just be coming out of like shop expenses or operating supplies, but to show how much chemical we actually spend within each utility. So it's quite a bit. And so it deserves its own category. Okay, capital outlays. This is a fun one. We have a number of new categories or fund accounts within this capital outlay because they're grant funded or they're loan funded, and I have to keep track of it. So 60-50-69 is raw water metering, a lot of grant funding there. So we're keeping track of that separately. Capital outlay is a little bit different. That's not like, any of these big water capital improvement phases. This is more like there's a water main break, Grace go out, fix it, ends up replacing the whole pipe. Let's see. Water tank relining that's one that's going to hit hard next year, about $1.9 million. The West Loop Improvement Project we're budgeting for $3 million to be done next year. If we can get more done, yeah, which would require a budget amendment, but that's why we can do budget amendments. And we can draw down for more loan as needed. Water Smart Grant, $335,000. That's that raw water metering and fixing diversion boxes and brush clearing there. I did budget for depreciation, which the state likes to see that you're actually putting something back, right? Especially when you're going for loans. I budgeted this year for 25 for 7,000. That's 7,000. It's not nearly enough. But with our P&A, that 20-year cash flow, we really ratchet it up in the next 8 to 10 years. So that depreciation keeps getting budgeted and put away. At the end, the big number that we want to see is, do we operate this at a surplus or deficit? Net income or loss is $770,800. We're going to need that to continue to go into next fiscal years because it's what we call our fund balance going into the next fiscal year, and it's necessary for getting grants and loans for phase 2 and phase 3. Wastewater department. Again, this one, looks like we're losing a person, but really, I've split them amongst those two departments. And when you add each one of these cover sheets up, they equal 23.5. Major goals and changes, budget and requisite financing for future improvements that may be mandated by CDPHE. We're starting that project needs assessment so that we can go for loans if need be. We're going to have to go through loans to fix our aging, sewer system, sewer collection system. I think, and I'll just tell you, it's not really a secret, but out at the wastewater plant, you all did that tour where you saw that bar screen. Well, when that bar screen catches clay pipe or clay tile, that's scary for us. And it's scary for our guys because that means somewhere a collections pipe has failed. It means we probably have a leak somewhere that we have to go find. Right? So it's the big dirty secret that we have to, we're going to have to update our systems. One of the capital requests, this is a script where I have to move it up, put the cameras in our wastewater plant. We want to know who's coming in. We want to know if people are illegally accessing the facility and then, find them. I'm not saying they are, but I just want to stop it if it's happening. Bless you.
I'm laughing because I was one of those people.
Oh, you broke into it? Oh,
No, walking?
oh, just walked in. We fixed that. Now it's got locks. That was PS, please stop. Okay, so this budget is kind of in line with what we've done in previous years. It is budgeting for less revenue than what we did for 24, and that's to be more in line with where our budget actuals have been. We are going to have to do at least a wastewater utility rate increase at the first of the year to go into effect sometime in spring. Even if it's $1, we're going to have to do some sort of, we're going to have to show some growth in that revenue, especially if you want to get loans. Personnel services are pretty much in line. We're going to be about $20,000 more than what they were in previous years. Let's see, operating expenses are they're going up, and it's more in line with what we've been seeing for budget actuals. Capital outlays, not many, and we're really hoping that we don't have any emergency sewer line repairs. I would rather not budget for them and say, hey, look, we've got them, and come to you and say, here's why we need it. It'll help me with, budget amendments and reporting that to the state. Grant projects, so that's the P&A. There's a $10,000 grant associated with that would be going for. That's what's in there. We actually already have been. We know we've got it. We just have to pull out from it once we start doing, that P&A work. And then at the end of the year, we're looking at a net income of $15,350. That could go up once utility rates are, once sewer rates are moved up. Okay, so in 24, you saw that we're looking at about $89,000 surplus in sanitation. It's not going to be that way for 25. No changes in, whose home station is the sanitation division or garbage trash. We're going to modernize the billing and collections procedures for trash service and ensure that garbage charges and utility billing reflect the level of service customers are actually receiving. There's a few ways that we can do that. This budget, one of the things I said was if you get garbage cans that we know are assigned to each person, that's not contemplated in this budget because I think that's worthy of a bigger discussion next year. But I would really hope that if we did a budget amendment, it would include doing something like that. Okay. Personnel and operating personnel expenses are expensive for sanitation. Insurance is pretty salty for guys that ride on the back of a garbage truck. So our guys still ride on the back of a garbage truck. We don't have modern equipment that has like the joystick where you pick up a garbage can and dump it. Guys are riding on the back of a garbage truck. So I want to keep reiterating that they are riding on the back of a garbage truck. Okay, revenue is anticipated to be about the same as it has been for years. Minor fluctuations here and there, but about $322,000. You'll see that personnel services have gone up, and that's because of where we spend a lot of our time in the front office. We spend a lot of time with garbage issues. And, why a lot of time our front office is dealing with people that are, wondering why their garbage wasn't picked up and what the tag means on it, that, why was it red tag? Then I've even been out to go look at garbage. It's like, oh, it's construction debris and you can't put it in your normal garbage can. Just can't do it. People get really angry about having the garbage right there. At the end of the year, rather than having an $89,000 surplus, we're looking at a $2,600 surplus. And that's because of where our fixed allocations are. But we're still in a surplus. We are finding that a lot of people might have 5 or 6 garbage cans out that are collected, and they're only paying for 1 garbage can. And then that becomes if one of our guys in the trash truck brings that up, it becomes an issue. And so we're trying to eliminate that as well. But that's worthy of a discussion.
We just noticed out there's a little typo where it says net income loss, wastewater utility.
Oh, I gotta fix that. Thank you. Yeah, it's not the same. I use the same template. Okay, the last one is our airport. So I've already got confirmation from the county that they are planning to do the preliminary engineering that's needed for that apron. And that looks like our share would be about $72,000, which effectively almost wipes out all of our surplus fund balance. The good news is I literally got a letter today that Verizon is going on those facilities. So they are going to see some more rent income coming onto that tower. That was part of the whole agreement that you guys negotiated for quite some time to get that tower extended, so it could add new facilities. Verizon has got a permit in with the county to put up on that tower.
At the airport.
I thought that was.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's not at the airport.
Right.
I wish it was. I've been trying to get T-Mobile to come out to that one as well. I'm still looking for new facilities. But the good news is, looks like the P Hill is going to have Verizon soon. So you're going to have Verizon service here now. It's just not here yet. But I have been working to try to get T-Mobile on that tower at the airport. They are looking for additional places to expand. So right now it's just sitting there empty with no cellular facilities on that tower.
But we made 76.
That is our share of the lease that goes directly to the county, or they remit it to us. I don't know if they take the 2% treasurer's fee, but I wouldn't be surprised if they did. So
Hangar rent.
and they keep hangar rent 100%. They do. They keep all of the hangar rent that's out there. They keep all of that to fund operations. Okay, that is it for the actual money of the budget.
Okay, questions from the trustees? He's first. All right, trustee Hunter.
Okay, so comparing the resolution with the transmittal letter, the total revenues match up. I think the transmittal letter for the estimated expenditures shows 12,8836, and the resolution shows 12,876.
The resolution is right, so I'll have to update my transmittal.
Okay. And then comparing the stuff we just went through again with the resolution, so water utility fund and wastewater utility fund are differing a bit. So the resolution for water utility has 6,842, and this summary has 6,847
Okay, where are you at?
Well, you looking at revenue on the
Let's see
resolution?
here. Sorry, expenditures.
Okay.
You are looking at, For wastewater?
Water utility fund,
Or water utility, 684.
both of them, but that's the moment.
Yeah, so that should, the water utility should be 68472 in the resolution.
Okay, so that. And then same thing for the wastewater utility for expenditures. It's off by 150.
Yep. So the resolution needs to be updated. As
Okay. Great. Thank you.
well, thank you for catching that.
So we need to remember that with the motion. Is this, the resolution is what is ultimately gonna be approved,
Correct.
correct? Okay. Anything else from you? Not from me. Trustee Hack, any comments, questions? You good? I'm just gonna go down the way. Trustee
Okay,
Ford.
I always have some. Okay, so I know like we have, Mayor Cochran here and who's been working on grants. And the grants should be received could be a big game changer for us this year. Do you have any, I appreciate that you only put in here the grants that we have secured, we have a contract for. Can you get a look in your crystal ball? What would you think our chances are for some of these grants? And when will we know?
They are super highly competitive.
Yeah.
I would anticipate that we would at least receive one more.
I would think so.
Could you come on up at the podium?
Yes.
Just so that, I know that we're kind of out of the hearing thing, but yeah, please.
I would say that the thing that's on your agenda about metering for Lee's Park, I suspect we could get that. I got really good feedback from the people at the granting agency. So I know how to reframe that grant. So we have a better chance for that.
That's another $250,000 grant.
No, it's 100,000.
Is it 100? Oh, that's right. That one was less.
Right.
Yep.
So there's that.
I think our chances are really good for the Safe Routes to School grant, but
Yes, I think we're really good on the Safe Routes to School grant.
which would be another million.
Yeah.
So I'm hopeful, but at the same time, I can't budget like right. So
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to just keep that in there. Wait with bated breath.
Yes.
Okay, I just wrote all my questions
Sure.
down, so they're just no particular order. With the audit, how can we start the audit? Like if you're saying we don't close our books until end of February, how can they start the audit if we haven't closed our books yet?
Okay, that's a really simple answer. So we can close our books earlier. We just have until February. So if we have outstanding invoices that get paid January 6th, and that's the last outstanding invoice, we can close it.
Okay,
So, but we give ourselves those extra 2 months just in case we have stragglers.
so it doesn't impact the audit. Like if we had big invoices that come in.
I would be really shocked if some of the invoices came in that were, $60,000, right? So they're going to call it immaterial. And so even though our, oh my gosh, I'm not in audit mode. What we transmit to the auditors for them, from our general ledger, our final balance, if it changes a few $1,000s in different, accounts, that's not a big deal. They can make those changes while they're doing the audit. But if it comes out that it's $600,000 or, $25,000, that seems to be the magic number. That's where there would be an issue.
Okay, thank you for that. I just have a question about the staffing numbers. We have on here, when you had in the summary for building was -1, here it shows 0.
So even though we had it in, like we had been showing it in previous budgets, I didn't put it in the budget for 24, except for on that cover sheet.
Okay.
So I had just carried it over on the cover sheet. So we're not really losing a position. It's just kind of showing that it's canceling itself out.
Okay. Let's see. Again, there's my random questions here. I work in the solar industry. I'm curious, will you once we redo the roof, will you have the solar be reinstalled?
Absolutely.
Okay, great.
And I don't think, I don't know if that part will be impacted. Was it the whole roof?
So it is, and the plan was just to either raise that up, work underneath portions of it. So it's not gonna go away at any point. It'll just be moved as minimal as possible to complete the project.
Okay.
Yeah, we certainly want to keep it.
Perfect. You had talked about adding in money for the Wilder Bunch.
Mhm.
We also added money for WSCC, the Fire Reading Watershed.
We did, and that was in the water, let's see, it was in water.
I didn't see it, but I was like, it could just be buried in here.
I want to say that was, oh, hang on, it was up here. It was either caught in miscellaneous or down in the capital outlay under machinery and equipment, depending on what we do.
You remember what we said we would do? Because that's a straight 5,000 in miscellaneous.
It was, yeah, I think it was $5,000, so it's probably miscellaneous.
Okay.
Yeah, and that was for fire mitigation, right?
Yeah, correct.
But it's within our water, so the reason it's in water was it's within our watershed, our raw watershed, so that's why it's.
And then the last thing that this is a comment is I spent a lot of time on this budget and I was so dang impressed by how thorough and clear, based in fact, that we could see historical. And I was just, I mean, you know me, I ask a lot of budget questions, but I feel very satisfied about where we're at. I'm really excited about where we're going in the direction. So just props to you and the whole staff, because it's a really, really well done budget.
Thank you. The checklist made it really easy from the GFOA. There's like, oh, you need this in here. So I just kept checking things off as we did.
And I thought last year's was thorough, but this year it's like, oh, I like this more.
Adding the staffing levels was one of the things that was missing, and the key component why we didn't get it last year, strategic plan.
Trustee Valentine? Hey, you know what? Hang on a second. I think I've completely blown the public hearing procedure. Well, you're kind of like the applicant, but you didn't swear to tell the truth. I know, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
You haven't done public
I'm
comment
kidding.
yet.
No, I haven't. And I think I have put the trustees ahead of public comment. So I'm gonna stop the trustee input, and I so apologize. Kind of forgot what we're doing here. So now is the time, if anyone from the public would like to make a comment, you have 5 minutes and come on up to the podium. Yes. And go ahead and give me your name and where you live, and I'll ask you to swear.
Mary Babrin, in-town resident.
Do you swear to tell the truth in this matter?
I do.
Thank you.
I just want to reiterate what trustee Schwartz said. Last year's budget was wonderful, and this year's budget is so much better than last year. So congratulations, and just kudos on all the hard work to this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the room who would like to make a comment? Yes, please.
Shirley Gamans.
I'm sorry, say it again.
Shirley Gamans, and I appeared to be here before concerning short-term rentals.
Hang on.
Oh,
Do you swear to tell the truth in this matter?
yes.
Okay.
And I had a question about the budget concerning the license money that's going to be collected. I talked to a young man today and he was asking me, how's the town going to use that money? And I said, I don't know. And I don't know if anyone's asked.
We all get that answered for you when we, the trustees, have our chance. How's that?
Okay. The other thing he was interested in was that these regulations for the short-term rental was to help with affordable housing. And he was feeling like You know, is this money going to be helping the affordable housing?
Okay,
There you have it.
thank you, and we'll answer that question when we get our chance. How's that?
Okay, so I can just report back to him that you don't know right now.
Well, no,
No.
we will do it. We'll ask the questions of our administrator when the trustees get back to our questions. How's that? Rather than
So I
right
can
now.
still hear what.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
thank you.
Yes, sure. Anybody else here in the room? Anybody on Zoom? Are there any yellow hands up? Doesn't see. Okay, thank you. With that, I will now close the public comment portion of the public hearing. And before we turn to the trustee for questions and deliberation, I want to state that the documents included as part of the record for this public hearing include all application materials submitted by the staff, all materials included in the packets, all written referral and public comments received regarding the budget, the notice of the hearings, and town ordinances. Does anyone have any objection to the inclusion of these items in the record? Thank you. It's a little. So now we'll go back to questions from the trustees, and I apologize for messing that up. So let's hold on to the questions from Ms. Yeaman, and I'll ask trustee Check what questions you have.
No, I just had a comment about, I was impressed too. Thoroughness. It would make my head swim. So kudos to you for plowing through it.
Yeah, thank you. I hope it's easy to read compared to what was 23s and 22s. I'm hoping it was easy to find, why we budget the way we do. So explaining the funds.
Trustee Stelter?
Yes, I just have one comment about the water usage rates. On the higher rates, we have big jumps. And I'm considering, and this is not for the budget, but it's coming up, that we change those steps and make more steps and make it more expensive for the more water you use to encourage conservation. And then the budget process. I've been doing this a long time, and this is the least painful time that I've had. It also explains everything where we go. And I want to say that this is the best, and I hope next year's is even better. But thank you for all of your hard work on this.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then I have just three things, and then we'll answer the questions from the audience. I just have a question. It's 104373 in the building department. I don't know what page that's on in here. It's has building improvements of $5,000 under the building inspector. And I just was curious what that was.
Going towards the roof.
Oh, okay. So allocating. And I wanted to add, because you had talked in the beginning about performance appraisals. And I have been remiss and with Chief Lamenter. So right now, the trustees supervise Chief Lamenter, and I would like to have a future discussion about that. But I will be working with the administrator and clerk vetter and our attorney to develop a performance appraisal for our chief. I don't think one's been done for any of the chiefs. So we're gonna start fresh, and I will be bringing that back for everybody. Well, I'll do what we can do through executive session, what can be public and what can't. But I promise that will be done early in 2025. And if you would answer the questions from.
Yeah, I wish we were bringing in more revenue to help with affordable housing, but what's expected to come in is meant to cover the cost of the enforcement software and town staff time. So what's coming in for licensure goes towards any sort of enforcement software or modules that we may need to enforce licenses. And then our time to process those licenses and make staff reports for all of them. And then anything that comes in for special use review, that's not money that's with a markup. That's going towards the actual cost that it is for the special use review. So it's kind of a wash, right? We're not bringing in any extra money to help with affordable housing. If you wanted to talk about that, then you have to increase the fees. So.
Thank you for that. Any other questions that came up through the questions? Yes, trustee Schwartz.
I don't know if we, as I was hearing the budget and thinking about how to get this information out to the community more. I personally would be very interested in doing like coffee with trustee or treats with the trustee or whatever it is, but to go over the budget and having sessions like that, but I don't know if that's something that you all would be in favor of, or if there'd be a staff member who'd want to do it with me or another trustee, but is that something, I think it could be really valuable, and you have it so clearly laid out. And if it was just like an hour session, maybe that I did twice.
I'm wondering if that could be put on the agenda in January
That would be
for
fine.
discussion,
Totally.
since we don't really have that on this
Great.
agenda.
Okay.
If we
I'm
could
just
make that
expressing
placeholder.
that I'm interested in that as a way to do some more formal outreach.
Anything else from trustees? Okay, so questions are done. I will now close the public hearing and turn the matter over to the board for consideration of the resolution listed on the agenda, and we have it in our packet on page 263. So if someone would like to make a motion which includes the changes that need to be made, and trustee Hunter, are you ready? for a
I'm
motion?
there's no further discussion on.
Oh, hang on.
Did you close the?
I did. Did I close it? I think I said I closed it.
You close the public comments.
Yeah.
Oh, I did. Oh. I will now close the public hearing. I
Oh,
did.
sorry.
I did. I read my words. Trustee Hunter.
All right, I move to approve resolution number 17-2024 with the following changes under section 1, estimated expenditures for the water utility fund to be $6,847,200. And for the wastewater utility fund, $815,150.
The final total.
And the final total to be, somebody give me. Is, $12,883,750 for the total.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Do we need a roll call? Yes, we do. I think since it's a public hearing, would you please do a roll call?
I ask you second.
Trustee
Did
Schwartz.
you want a second, Rick?
Oh, what?
Did you want a second? I thought I was.
No, that's fine.
Okay, I was second.
Thank you. I thought so, and then my mind blew up, so. Mayor Pro Tem Valentine?
Aye.
Trustee Stelter?
Aye.
Trustee Schwartz?
I,
Trustee Check?
Aye.
Trustee Hunter? Aye. Trustee Heck?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Hey.
Congratulations.
Yes, well, thank you.
The nervousness for this whole meeting is. Vacation. After tomorrow. Oh, you need me for something on Friday, Jack.
Okay, now, let's see. So we are out of the public hearing portion of the agenda, and we are to action item number 1, consideration of appointing applicants to the 3 vacant tree board seats. And this is a decision made by the trustees, correct? Okay,
Anybody have the page number?
yes,
Packet at the end of the budget.
266. Well, that'll take you to the cover sheet. And so we have 3 vacancies and 3 applications. And is there anyone on Zoom? I don't see anybody in the room who would apply.
And then I think the night got too late
Yep.
for them, so they.
Was it Greg?
Yes,
He was here?
he was.
Okay. And,
I think he was really interested to hear that the tree board's requests were funded.
oh, yeah.
So,
And Kimberly and Thomas. So, I guess I just asked for discussion.
As the tree board liaison, I heartily recommend all 3 of them, having worked with them and knowing them.
Okay, and you know Kimberly?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, very good. I don't is she on there now?
No. No,
No, she's not.
Okay, I
She did apply last time there was an open seat, so this is actually her second time.
feel like I might know her, but I'm not sure. Anyway, any other input from trustees? Any comments from the audience on this agenda item? See any hands? Well, would someone like to make a motion?
I will. I move to approve, as commissioners on the tree board, painting, Ottinger and well.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Who got there first?
I think.
Okay. Was that you? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we don't have any content on action item number 2, but we have Mary here to, unless Stefan, do you have anything you want to say before Mary comes to the podium?
Oh, hang on,
Present.
which one is
We are at the reapplication for the Water Smart grant to meter Lee's Park Trailer
it?
Court.
No, please.
Yes, if you would come up, that'd be great.
So we had submitted a grant for this previously and were turned down. But we do have the chance, there's another application period that is due the 15th of January. So I would like to reapply. I have spoken to the people at the our local liaison for this and gave me lots of good feedback. And so I think I can make it very competitive grant. So it would be the Lee's Trailer Park. Their water meters are underneath the trailers along with the water main. And so what we're proposing to do is to move the water main out from under those trailers into the public easement and then put radio read meters on it, because it's one of the biggest sections that we don't have radio read meters. So that is for this grant. The total project will be $224,394, and they will give us $100,000 if we get the grant.
So can I add to that? So these are some of the most hardest to read in town. And part of, as part of our meter audit, replacing these and bringing them, up to our current standards, bringing them out towards the road instead of underneath the trailers or underneath the homes, I should say. This will help us go a long way. I believe it also is for fire hydrants.
Yes,
Also
because there's
fire
no fire
hydrants.
hydrant in the park, right?
So, yeah.
Yeah. And it would also, there'll be shut off valves so that we can isolate this part of the system as well if there is a water break.
Yeah, the water break is the biggest trigger there.
Can people hear? Can people hear Corey on Zoom? Can you tell? Just
hang on, if he talks again, I can.
Yeah, talk again. I just want to make sure.
I was just, the biggest fear is the concern of a water break there, and some of those to repair, if the water main broke under one of the homes, it's gonna be pretty much hand digging, and that whole area is gonna be out of water until we can come up with a proper fix.
Yeah, so it really is, it's a necessary project.
Any questions from the trustees for Mary?
I got one comment. If we were successful, we will have to do a budget amendment.
Anybody in the audience with questions on this agenda topic? Okay, and I don't see any hands in the audience. Okay. With that, thank you. And you may as well wait. You may as well stay there. Because you're up for the next one too. Okay. Do we have a motion? And you have to make the motion based on the agenda. We don't have content in the agenda packet. And it's action item number 2. If someone would like to make a motion.
I make a motion that we reapply for the Water Smart grant to meter Lee's Park Trailer Court.
I'll second.
Should include the replacement of the water line, the main.
That's what, that's what the grant is covering, all of that.
Okay.
So
that was my question.
yeah, I think, so it sounds like the motion is enough to be clear. Okay. And we had a second? Yes. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, opposed? Seeing none. All right, that passes. So now the next one is agenda item 3, consideration and approval of a grant submittal to CDPHE for up to $25,000 for SCADA system upgrades.
So each time the electricity cuts out of the Lamborn water treatment plant, the plant shuts down. The current system does not have the capability to contact water operators to restart the system correctly. This results in the system being offline until the problem is noticed or restarted correctly. The grant will pay to upgrade the SCADA system to include an automatic notification of the water staff when a power outage occurs to address the problem. Corey is also investigating other items which could be included in the grant to help the system. So this grant is from the Water Quality Control Division, Water Quality Control Division's Local Assistance Unit, and is an application for the 2025 Assistance Grants Program. These grants provide a financial assistance for systems that need help reaching or exceeding compliance requirements or addressing a water quality challenge. And the maximum grant is $25,000, which is what we will go for.
Yes.
Two things. One, James brought this to our attention and Mary picked it up and ran with it and did all the application, and it's been, that team that's been going on has been great. So James is our engineer with respect.
Which one? James, would you raise your hand? Okay, thank you.
Doug's also there.
I'm not sure I meant the one way. Yeah, okay, thank you. Any questions? Yes, trustee Short.
Okay, so the maximum we can apply for is 25,000. And when would it be here back?
Well, the grant is due on the 28th of December. So, and it's.
Is it the 28th or the 23rd?
Pardon?
I thought that one was the 23rd.
It doesn't matter, it'll be done before Christmas. As long as I get my information. Yeah, it's a very simple grant application, and yeah, it could be great.
And will it cover the cost of the entire,
Yeah, we'll make sure that what we buy is.
The engineers are going to go with the plant tomorrow with this. Find all the things that we can possibly include in this.
There will be an annual ongoing subscription fee afterwards, but this covers the main cost. So.
Great. Any comments from people in the audience? Okay, and seeing no hands on Zoom. If there's no further discussion, who would like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the grant submittal for the CDPHE for the grant up to $25,000 to upgrade our SCADA system.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Okay, thank you. That passes. Action under item number 4, which is actually on page 274 of the packet. Consideration of adopting ordinance 2024-06, enacting an electronic communication and device security policy. We had to move this from the last regular meeting to this meeting. So a lot of this content was in our previous agenda packet, and I'm going to turn it over to Clerk Vetter to describe.
Thank you. So a lot of it is pretty basic. I took what Phones has provided for us and personalized it to Panya. I added in the section about devices only being given to staff or provided to staff by the town. And I think the rest of it seems like it's actually pretty standard. As Administrator Wynn talked about in our budget, we're going to be doing a lot of new software and going more and more digital this year, not only with records, but with our ERP system. And the more we do that, the better security practices we need to have. So, I mean, I will always just start going paperless sometime next year. But if we're going to do that, we need to make sure that our security is on point and that everybody who's using it is following the same policies and that we have things in place in case something happens. And so this is just a start. I'm sure it will absolutely be fine-tuned, but at least it's something to get on the books and get us working with and go from there.
Questions from the trustees? Yes,
I
trustee
just have a comment. I came into this meeting tonight so excited by the progress that's happening between this and then the next one. It's like, wow, like we are moving forward and addressing these big things. So huge props to you, but better. Also,
We've had a really good year with stuff in at the home. We're starting to do a little bit more proactive stuff now instead of just reacting to every crisis. And I think all of us staff are kind of pleased to be in that position. So, yeah.
So I gave Sam a template because she came to me and said, we gotta fix this, now. I said, here's a template. She did it all. So putting all of this together from the actual ordinance to the manual, she took it upon herself to get it done with phones. So huge achievement.
Yep, thank you. Any comments from the audience or anyone on Zoom? Okay, seeing none. Any more comments, questions from the trustees?
Oh, I did go. I'm sorry.
Sure, go ahead.
It's late. I was gonna be all smart about this. I'll just let you know that probably 97% of what's in here is stuff that town staff already does. It's just, it's the way we already do things. It's the things we already do. This is just, we've heard a lot about, nobody wants to do what we've always done or, because that's the way we've always done it. And so just formalizing those things is another big part of this. So, but I just want to let you know, I don't think we're going to have a whole lot of people, this is stuff that we all. So it's just making sure I won't get in trouble if we don't. That's all.
All right, who's ready for a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 2024-06.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, opposed? Hearing none, that motion passes. Thank you. All right, action item number 5, which is on page 318 of the packet. And it is a new proposed ordinance. Consideration of approval of ordinance 2024-04. Is that the right number? I guess so in the line scheme of things, okay. Amending chapter 2, articles 2, 6, 7, and 8, boards, committees, and commissions, meeting operations and conduct. And again, I'm going to turn this over to Clerk Metter.
Okay, a lot of this is the same thing I just talked about. It's taking processes that we've already done, that have been done before, things as easy as how to set an agenda, who talks about that. There's changes in there over things that I've seen issues with over the last year and a half, or things that have caused problems. Who sets an agenda? Who cancels a meeting? Does a meeting get canceled? The planning commission, for example, in state statute, it shall have a meeting every month. In our code, it was may have a meeting every month, changing it to shall. How the chair and the clerk get those things done, what goes on an agenda for each one, that process of business. So again, just taking stuff that's the way it's been done, but it's always been kind of in the background and making it formal. This is how it works, da 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 da. Because it also gives people a chance if they want to change something, if there's a process formalized, that means there's also a process to change it. And it takes away a lot of chaos. And a lot of times we're losing valuable time over things we really shouldn't be having to put so much thought into doing. So this is the first step. I'm also working with trustees Schwartz and Stelter, and we're working on doing this for a lot of other processes that are in place. So you guys will see those next year. This is just the first step, getting those meetings and bringing them all into the same thing. You've got one committee that needs here, there, and everywhere. They don't come in here and do it. It's not reported. You've got another one. I mean, your ZBOA, they're only quasi-judicial. So when questions come up for procedure with that one, it can get complicated just because it's so rarely even used. So it's just pulling everybody under the same thing, making sure they're following the same conduct, they're following the same processes. It makes things more transparent. Formalizing business. Oh, this also does have in each of the committees, the requirement that you guys put into place about boards, committees, and commission members using a town email address for town business, which goes along with that security policy that you just passed. So that's also in there.
Questions, comments? Okay, I have a question, and it's actually on page 328 under the ZBOA. Hang on, let me get to it too. It was, the intro to the ZBOA talks about, they must appoint a chair and let's see. And other, from its membership, a chair and other officers as it may deem necessary, yet below, on 22-8-30D, it makes a specific reference to the vice chair. As in the absence of the chair by the vice chair, the meeting shall be called to order. So I wondered if it should be clarified in the first one I read, that they do need to choose a vice chair.
I actually agree with you. Thank you for catching that. That's one of the things in there. That's another thing. It's really important that the chair can't be there. They know who's gonna run the meeting. So I think it's important for each of our committees to have that.
So you would recommend modifying? Yeah.
Amending it to say vice
Yeah,
chair.
to say vice chair, add it, to underline a vice chair and, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I think that's an important process for smoothness.
That's all I had. So anyone in the audience or on Zoom have a comment on this proposed ordinance? Seeing none, yes, trustee Hunter.
Ready to make a motion if we're there. Okay, let's make back to the beginning here. I move to approve ordinance number 2024-4 with the following addition under section 4 of the ordinance, which is section 2-8-20 of the code, adding the selection of the vice chair for the zoning board of adjustment.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, all right, that motion passes. Thank you for all that work, yes.
So one of the big things that we've introduced this year is having ordinances be introduced by trustees. So that's just a good way to make meetings move smoother, because at that point you have a motion and a second. So it's just good board management.
If I could just add to that, I would just like to point out that they were valuable to helping me with government and come up with different perspectives. So that was nice having that interaction as well.
Thanks, I think that's really helpful.
Thank you and congratulations on your first ordinance.
Excellent. The next is consideration of approval to cancel the second board meeting of December, and there is no board content for that. That sounds like just a discussion and a motion. Is that correct, Clerk Better?
Oh, I'm so sorry. I wrote a report for it. It was really nice. And I must have forgotten to put it in there. So give me a second and I will just read it.
All right. Because this doesn't have to be done by resolution, does it?
No.
Please cancel this meeting. It's on Christmas Eve.
All right, we should all be here in our pajamas. It's a Christmas Eve.
You don't mean it, but no. I'll just read it to you. I'm sorry for not putting it in there.
Okay.
So Mayor and trustees, it's that time again. It's been a long and productive year, but 2025 will bring its own projects, hard work, expectations, and challenges. But tonight is when we respectfully request the cancellation of the December 24th, 2024 meeting. We thank you all for your hard work and dedication this year and know that just like all of us, you are looking forward to a well-deserved break before taking up the tasks of 2025. Town staff wishes you all and the community the happiest of holidays and New Year. See you in 2025.
Who wants to make a motion?
I make a motion that we cancel the second board meeting of December.
I'll second.
On favor?
Aye.
Okay, happy birthday to you. Okay, last action item. Consideration of resolution 2024-18. So I gotta ask, these resolutions, we have a 4 and a 6 and an 18. Do we really have that many resolutions in between this year?
Yes, and then.
Oh, it's ordinance, never mind. never mind. Yes, we do have that many resolutions, sorry. Ixnay on the resolution, right?
I thought you were gonna ask about the numbering, and it just comes down to sometimes we start one earlier than another one, and one's harder to push through, so.
Just mix in my metaphors or whatever. Okay, on the last, it's on 334. And Administrator Nguyen, would you like to give us your explanation?
I suppose. I'm looking. I'll just wait till there's any questions that will pull up. Okay, so we did one at the end of last year, a resolution based on that, but as we did this, the water meter audits, found obviously their water usage was way less. And in order to go after these DWRF loans for next year, to complete phase one of the water capital improvement plan, we have to set our rates at a level that keeps it 1 to 1.1. 1 to 1.1. That means revenue that's coming in to the expenses need a 1 to 1.1, 1 to 110%, right? So that being said, these proposed water rates are based on that 20-year cash flow analysis that was updated. James was very helpful in updating that with me. And then this was put into the water utility rates. What was originally proposed for 25, I'm trying to find that.
I do have it up.
I do too.
You do have it?
This is the 2024 resolution, if that helps.
That's exactly what I was looking for. Okay, so in 2024, the base rates, the anticipated base rates were $44, $54, $54.75, and $71.50. That's not being proposed to change. What is changing is the water usage because of that water meter audit. In 25, the first 1,000 gallons, so the first three that are there. In 25, the original resolution from last year had it at 275, 275, and 385. And you can see we're updating it to be 283, 283, and 397. The next in 24 were 547, 975, 20, 27, and 28. You'll see that in this one, it's 580, 946, 1976, 2643, and 2957. I'm sorry. I went a column too far. It's 552, 893, 1864, 2494, and 2640. Does that make sense?
And what was it on the 100,000 in 2024?
100,000 in 2025. Oh, in 2024 was $24.
Thank you.
And so in 2025, it's in the last resolution, it was 20.
And to clarify, the base rates are changing.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't want us to overlook that.
They are changing, but they're not changing from the resolution that was provided at the end of 23.
I'm looking at the resolution from the end of 23. And they're different.
For 25? That's second.
Well, in 2025, they're the same, but the years afterwards are different.
Correct.
Oh, sorry, did you already say that and I missed it?
I haven't said that part yet. So base rates in 20, so that's another change. Base rates in 26 from the last resolution was 4532, 5562, 5694, and 7508. The proposed resolution before you says the base rate changes of 4488, 5508, 5639, and 7436.
So less of a
They are less, yeah.
Less, that's good.
Yeah, but in 29, they ramp up. And so that's something important to note as well.
You're looking at base rates for residential?
The base rates for residential, yeah.
In the packet, that didn't mention those you just read.
So the base rates for residential in 26 that are in the packet are going to be different than the resolution that was passed in 23.
Oh.
So I should clarify by backing up. The resolution in 2023 that was passed was for 5 years, which started in 24. This resolution is for 5 years, starting in 25.
Okay. Yeah. Previous ones.
Yeah, that's fine, the base rates don't bother me, but I agree with trustee Stelter that the rates for usage ought to have maybe have a steeper decline for greater use than is proposed here.
So if I could put something out there, the water users that typically use the most are our water companies, the outside water companies. And that's because we charge them based on cumulative consumption, not individual houses. And so they would be feeling a pretty big, they are going to feel it. They are feeling it right now. And so we're trying to balance that. The unfortunate part is at 29, it doesn't matter. They have to go up. I mean, you can see the jump that goes 100,000 gallons goes from 2640 to 7275. Right. And we have to do that. It's part of good water conservation policies and, that the state is pushing out and what we need to generate revenue to pay off our loans that we're going to take out. So
go ahead, trustee Stelter.
And my suggestion is that we encourage only the water users to get individual meters that can be read with radio. And they read them themselves. That's what we need. We have that in our ordinance that every home that's connected should have a water meter.
And you're talking about the consecutive water systems.
Right. And then this would take effect and it wouldn't hurt anybody or except the people that use 100,000 gallons of water.
and those consecutive systems would lose their consecutive system status because they're getting direct bill from us, right? So that could be something that would happen, but that's worthy of more discussion. And I know that later next year, we're planning to bring all the consecutive systems together, at least the leadership, to start talking about our problems, and what CDPHE is restricting us to, and then to start having those conversations to say, hey, your systems and the state of repair that they're in not only affects you, but will affect us and our ability to deliver you water. So, those conversations are coming and they're going to be really tough, but I hope to get everybody around like a big round table to start talking about it.
Yeah, sorry about my confusion. I wasn't thinking about the consecutive waters companies. I was thinking about individual.
Right, because that, I didn't understand what he said.
And
The total all goes to 1 meter from 30 homes.
Correct.
Okay.
Some are 60 homes.
But do we divide that if it was 60 homes and they used 100,000? Do we say 100,000 divided by 60?
No.
And that's because we're not billing those 60 people.
Correct.
Those consecutive water systems bill their users.
They go to a master meter.
Yeah, that makes sense. So if they use, let's say 100,000 gallons, okay, I do know this. Yeah, wow.
Yeah,
they do.
Yeah.
So,
well, no, I was just doing the math in my head. That's what I was.
The best way to think about us is think of us like a gas station, right? A gas truck comes in, a fuel truck comes in, fills up our tanks, and then it's distributed. Or I guess, let me back that up. We're the gas truck and the fuel truck that comes in and fills up their tank, and then they distribute that to their customers. So they're going to have a markup anyway. Ours is what's coming in as the surplus, charge, and then whatever that final bill is, they ought to be able to give to their customers accurately. Some of them don't have meters. Some of them have what I would consider ancient meters, and some of them rely on the honor system for reporting how much water they use. So, our responsibility right now ends at that master meter. Then they take it from there. But ultimately, they are going to have to mark it up because they're going to work at a deficit. I think that is a good analogy, yeah?
Yeah, that was just an epiphany. When you said that, it was an epiphany for me about what the master meter really
Actually
means.
does.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions from trustees? Anybody out there in the audience and in Zoom land? Okay, seeing none. Anything else from Administrator Witt?
I don't have,
Okay, you're, all right.
I make a motion to approve resolution number 18-2024. The establish water rates and charges.
And that doesn't matter that the numbers are transposed and the motion does it good. Okay, it's just. Second?
Dyslexic.
Who seconds?
Second.
Oh,
I'll second.
I think. John, Mike? Either one. Who did you hear? Trustee Valentine or trustee Heck?
I should trust you.
Okay. Then all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, that motion passes. And with that, I adjourn this meeting. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Job well done on the budget.